Hello everyone and welcome to the ACCA taxation paper, and today's our first introductory session, and in this session we'll cover multiple things with respect to the paper format, the syllabus areas, and how exactly is the paper to be examined for taxation. First of all, let me introduce myself. This is Yarana, and I'm teaching taxation, financial reporting, and advanced taxation since last 8 years. And here we have the syllabus and the study guide for those students who are taking TX exam from June 22 till March 23 exam sessions. And all exams in these 4 exam sessions are to be conducted according to the Finance Act 2021. So this session is relevant to those students who are attempting taxation paper in June 22, September 22, December 22, or March 23. First thing, let me show you the relational diagram. You can see the taxation paper is linked with other paper. By the way, interestingly and importantly, this taxation paper has nothing to do with the previous papers, like from F1 till F5. It has no relation with any of the paper. However, you do study a petty area of the value added tax in financial accounting paper in F3 paper. Other than that, F6 has no link with any of the previous paper you have studied in ACCA, but this taxation knowledge will be helping you out for the preparation of advanced taxation P6. And this P6 exam is an optional paper in ACCA. So if you wish to opt this ATX paper, so this for surely the taxation knowledge will be helping out in preparing the advanced taxation paper. Now let's talk about the paper format of the taxation. It comprises of 3 sections. Section A, you will find the objective test questions. In section B, again the objective test questions are there. And in section C, constructive response questions, CRQs, are included in section C. Objective test question mean the answer could be like an MCQ. The question could be like there is scenario and then there is a box available to put your value. Another question, like let's say there are 2 best options are there. There could be a drop down menu available after the scenario. So objective test questions means any type of question can be tested in section A. It's not only the MCQs, but the boxes, drop down questions, select 2 choices question, 2 option questions. All these are part and parcel of the section A of taxation paper. And there are 15 marks in total of 2 marks each. So section A is of in total 30 marks. In section B, there are objective test questions, but it is in the form of 3 scenarios. In each scenarios, we'll find 5 questions of 2 marks each, 10 marks for first scenario, 10 marks for second scenario, and 10 marks for third scenario. So in total, section B is of 30 marks. With respect to section C, you will find a one question for 10 marks and two 15 marks constructive response question. All these are CRQs as mentioned there. Let me tell you about the constructive response question. What does it mean? CRQ means you have to present your answer in a structured way. For presenting your answer in a structured way, you would be using like a spreadsheet for performing any calculations, for putting any formulas, for adding, deducting, multiplying, dividing the values. And if there is any like theoretical question, you have to write your answer in a paragraph form. So you would be using the word process area for the same thing. So for answering section C question, the spreadsheet and word process, these two are the important elements to learn how to present your answer in a structured way. Now, importantly, if you think which areas are to be tested in section A, what are the relevant areas for section B, and section C comes from which areas? So I can specify the areas for section B and C, but cannot tell you anything about the section A. Section A from any area of the syllabus. These 15 questions can be asked from any area of the syllabus. There is no like there is no choice that if you prepare like part A, part B, so these two be are tested in section A. It's not like that. Any area of the syllabus can be tested in section A. With respect to section B, as I told you, there are 3 scenarios in total, and each scenario has 5 questions of 2 marks each. In total, 10 marks for each scenario are there. But the good thing is that we can specify the relevant areas. One scenario is pertaining to the value added tax. I repeat, in section B, there is a question always for value added tax. One scenario for capital gain taxes, and one scenario for inheritance tax, IST. So these 3 are the defined areas for section B. I repeat, the value added tax, capital gain taxes, and inheritance tax. For section B, this 10-mark question pertains to the tax planning, and these two 15-mark questions, one question comes from income taxes and other one corporation tax. So this is how we can divide this section into the areas, into the syllabus areas of the taxation course. Section A can be tested from anywhere. Section B is comprises of 3 areas of the syllabus: value added tax, inheritance tax, and capital gain taxes. Whereas in section C, there is one 15-mark question for income taxes and one 15-mark question for the company's taxes. And there is third question for 10 marks with respect to tax planning. So this is how 100 marks paper is there. 30 marks and 40. So in total there are 100 marks. Let me guide you a thing with respect to tax planning. There are basically 2 terms are used in taxation. One of them is tax evasion. Another one is tax avoidance. Tax evasion means evading tax. You are trying to minimize the tax liability by using illegal means. You are trying to reduce your tax liability by using illegal ways. So tax evasion is illegal activity, and by doing such kind of things, fines, penalties could be there. And tax avoidance, also termed as tax planning, simply means over here you are also trying to reduce your tax liability, you are trying to minimize your tax liability as you are trying by evading tax. But over here you are actually trying to identify the loopholes which are there in the taxation laws, and you will opt that option which will result in a lower tax liability for individual or for the companies. So if an individual person or a company is trying to reduce the tax liability by identifying the loopholes in the taxation laws and using that option which is favorable for the taxpayer, so if a person is trying to reduce tax liability by using legal ways, that is termed as tax avoidance, means you are planning your taxes. The objective is same for both things. Tax evasion and tax avoidance. The objective is same, to reduce the tax liability, but the way you are actually trying to achieve your purpose, the objective, is different. One of them is illegal activity and other one is legal activity. Now, what exactly is the meaning of income tax? I'm actually guiding you the relevant areas which are tested in section C and in section B, and just started discussion with the 10-mark question of tax planning, and I actually elaborated that what is tax evasion, what is tax avoidance, and tax planning is tax avoidance. Now let's talk about income taxes. Income taxes means the taxation of individual person. Income tax means the taxation of individual person. And for finding the income tax liability of for any individual person like you and I, if we are actually gonna pay tax, if we are actually want to calculate our tax liability, so we have to perform all of the calculations according to a fiscal year 21-22. I repeat, income taxes means the taxation of individual person, finding the tax liability of an individual person, and for the calculation of the income tax liability of individual persons, we have to follow the fiscal year dates, and our relevant fiscal year is 21-22, which starts on 6th April 21 and ends on 5th April 22. Every country has its own tax system, and in UK, the relevant tax authority name, UK Tax Authority, name is Her Majesty Revenue and Customs. So all of the tax affairs are dealt by HMRC. HMRC guides how a person should calculate its tax liability for a fiscal year and our relevant fiscal year. The students who are taking taxation in June 22, in September 22, in December 22, or in March 23, the relevant fiscal year is 21-22, which starts on 6th April 21 and ends on 5th April 22. So that's the relevant dates for calculating the income tax liability of an individual person. For finding the income tax liability of any individual person, first thing to know about the sources of income. Mainly, there are like 6 sources of income of an individual person. What are those? Income from property, income from rent, means property income. Number 2, the employment income. Number 3, trading or business income. Number 4, interest income. Number 5, dividend income. And 6th one is pension income. So by adding income from all these sources, or let's say if there are only 3 sources where from a person is getting income, no worries, you can add the income received from 3 or 4 or all of these 6 sources. By adding income from all sources, we'll find the total income. From that total income, an amount is allowed by HMRC to deduct. To that extent, there is no tax liability. I repeat, HMRC allows an individual person for performing calculation for the fiscal year 21-22. If you want to find the income tax liability, first of all, do take the sum of all of the sources of income, and there are 6 sources: property income, employment income, interest, dividend, trading or pension income. From the total income, HMRC allows a person to deduct the amount of the personal allowance. Personal allowance is actually a tax-free income. To that extent, there is no tax on to that extent. And for the fiscal year 21-22, the amount of personal allowance is 1 to 570. So that is fixed for this fiscal year. That is relevant for us. From the total income, after deducting this personal allowance, you will get the taxable income. And on this taxable income to be multiplied with the rates of taxes. So resultingly, you will find the income tax liability for the fiscal year of any individual person. So what exactly is the main theme of studying income taxes? Let me conclude. Income taxes means the taxation of individual person. For calculating the income tax liability of a person, take the sum of the sources of income, find the total income, then deduct the personal allowance, calculate the taxable income, and on that taxable income, simply apply the tax rates to find the income tax liability. And all the guidance is given by HMRC that how to calculate taxable income, what are the tax rates, how to apply the tax rates. All the guidelines are given by HMRC, and HMRC is the UK taxation authority who deals with the tax affairs in the UK. Let's talk about the corporation tax. Corporation tax means the taxes of the company. As individual person earns income and pays taxes, that is termed as income tax. Same likely, a company earns profits and has to pay taxes. So that is termed as corporation tax. So here is the difference. Income taxes means taxes of individual persons, and corporation tax means corporation taxes paid by the company. For the corporation tax calculation, again, as we do perform calculation for individual persons, same things for companies as well. First of all, take the sum of the income received by a company, and then take the total income, and then tax rates are applied to find the corporation tax liability. So these two are the important areas, and income tax question plus corporation taxes are examined in section C for 15 marks each. So we discussed the areas relevant to section C, 10 mark question for tax planning, and 2 question constructive response question for income taxes and corporation tax. Now let me guide you for section B. In section B, there are 3 scenarios. Let's talk about the first one, value added tax. Value added tax is a kind of an indirect tax which actually borne by the end consumers. Like if you and I, if we consume goods or services, we have to pay value added tax. And it's a kind of an indirect tax because it's actually the responsibility, and it's actually borne by the end consumers. The manufacturers, the retailers, wholesalers, or any registered business, any business which is registered for VAT purposes, that business can recover their VAT, but this VAT liability actually pertains to the end consumers. Capital gain tax. Capital gain means gain on disposal. As we do study in accounting, capital gain is a tax term, whereas in accounting we do learn this term gain on disposal when we actually compare the net book value of asset and we compare it with the disposal proceed. Then we calculate the gain or loss on disposal. If there is a gain on disposal, that gain on disposal in taxation is termed as capital gain. Capital gain tax mean any tax which is payable at time of selling any non-current asset. So if in a fiscal year I'm going to dispose my non-current asset and I'm getting any gain on disposal, I'm actually having a capital gain. So I have to pay tax on such gain on the disposal of non-current asset. That tax is actually termed as capital gain tax. What about inheritance tax? Inheritance tax is any tax which is calculated and paid at time of death of a person. Normally what happens is that at time of death of a person, the estate of deceased person is transferred to other persons. So at time of death of a person, IST is applicable to the estate calculated. But there are few reliefs, exemptions are available. From the state value, we can deduct the nil rate bands, the other exemptions. We'll study all these things in very much details. Then, on the net estate, there is IST calculated and paid to HMRC. Now, hopefully, you got the idea that what exactly are the topics to be tested in section B. What are the relevant areas which are examined in section C, and there is like no specific topic for section A. Section A question can be asked from any area of the syllabus. Let's talk about the taxation authority and its responsibilities. As I told you, the HMRC is the UK taxation authority, UK taxation body. And there are few responsibilities lies with the taxation authority. I'm not specifically talking about HMRC. Any taxation authority of any country has few responsibilities to fill. Let's say to maintaining the records of the taxpayers, providing any clarity on the taxation laws. If a company, if an individual person is unclear on any taxation law, he or she can write to the taxation authority, and it's the responsibility of taxation body to respond on the queries raised by the taxpayers. Furthermore, taxation authority always want to raise their taxes, and they always try to search the new areas of tax generation. They always try to find the new areas where from they can get more and more taxes from the companies, from the individual person. And there are multiple other tax responsibilities of any taxation body of a country. Same case over here, HMRC is the relevant taxation body in the UK. What next is there? Here we have the main capabilities for studying and passing the taxation paper. Over here, we have a relational diagram of the main capabilities for studying and passing taxation paper. We should know about the UK tax system and its administration. Administration means simply when to pay tax, who will pay tax, what are the deadlines, what is the return filing date, what is the tax payment date. So all these things are actually covered under administration of tax. Furthermore, let's say I'm actually paying my taxes late, or I delayed my return filing. So what will happen? Few penalties and fines are there. So all these things are actually covered in the administration of taxes. You can see that income tax and NIC liabilities. Income tax and NIC liabilities if you remember, income tax means taxation of individual person, and it is tested in section C for 15 marks. Corporation tax and liabilities, again, it is examined in section C for 15 marks as discussed on previous slide. Whereas capital gain taxes, inheritance tax, VAT, all these are part and parcel of the section B of 10 marks each. And with respect to tax planning, there is no specific topic for this tax planning for 10 marks. Reason being, tax planning question is based on the entire knowledge gained by studying taxation. So this question can be tested from any area of this syllabus. I can give you an example. Let's say you have money in your pocket and you want to start a business. Now you go to a tax advisor and ask your query and put your query in front of the tax advisor that either I should start my business as a sole proprietor, or should I start my business via a company by registering a company. Which option is feasible for me? So that's actually the tax planning. Then the tax advisor would be guiding you that these are the pros and cons of doing a business as a sole proprietor, and XYZ are the pros and cons of doing business via a company. So when we actually compare the things and like do find the favorable options, the feasible options for companies, for individuals, so that is actually the tax planning. And there is no specified area for tax planning question. Any area of the TX syllabus can be examined for this 10 mark question. And very, very important thing. Lastly, you can see that employability and technology skills as section C. In section C, there are constructive response questions. For answering these, we should know about the spreadsheet knowledge and word process knowledge, how to present, how to demonstrate, how to perform calculation, how to show your workings. So these are the technology skills. As we know, our paper are computer-based exam, and we have to write we have to like answer to the long question in a structured manner. So how to write your answer in a structured manner? Don't worry for this thing. We are here to guide you. After covering these syllabus areas, we also cover these types of things, the practice according to the real exam scenarios. Don't worry for these things. We shall be teaching you all these things. Next thing, an important one, how this course will be delivered. This course will be delivered. We are going to provide you the pre-recorded lectures, then the WhatsApp support, assignments and tests are there, live Q sessions. So upon registration, you would be availing all these things, the pre-recorded lectures on our LMS portal, Learning Management System portal. We have our own website, scriberacademy.com. In search bar, you can like write TX. Just click on the search button. You will see that taxation courses are available both in Urdu language and English language as well. Upon registration, you will find all these things. And along with the video lectures, we actually provide our students the PDF tutor notes, books, and the relevant stuff which is relevant to the exam sessions from June 22 till March 23. So hopefully now you are clear with the examination techniques and the syllabus areas. Still, if you feel any query, you may get in touch with our student coordinator. I'm writing the number over here: 923466666644 is the contact number of the ACCA coordinator at Escribir Academy. In case of any query, if you feel any unclarity, you may please ask, you may get in touch with them. Inshallah, see you in next session. Till that time, take care and bye.